Well, gang, Lane, Carolina Jackpot time coming at you. It is October the 5th, 2023. It is Thursday morning, and I'm just cruising along here trying to get some work in. Hope everyone's having a good start to your Thursday. By the way, got the Penn State hat on today, so to avoid any dumb questions in the comment section, I got that hat on. It's because I like wearing it. Gamecocks have an off week this week, and it's a much needed off week, as they usually are in our case. Get some people healthy, and definitely, I don't know if you're going to get some things right, not 100% right. Maybe you can correct some things to mask some of your problems, because there are many. Ooh, there are many. But what I really wanted to talk about today was just a growing trend that I'm seeing today in college football, and that's fans and sports media in general taking a dump on players. I don't get it. And of course, if you watch our live shows, watch any of my live reaction videos to the games as well, you'll know who I'm specifically talking about. But I see this happening with other players as well. I don't really particularly like the angle that a lot of our media, so-called personalities, so-called expert talking heads have taken towards Gamecock quarterback Spencer Rattler. I don't care what you think about the guy. He came back to South Carolina for another year to try to polish his game up, to make a go of it in the NFL. He had a rocky 2022. It didn't start off like he would have wanted it to, throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. And a lot of that was on him. He didn't have the greatest offensive line in the world in front of him, but we'll get to talk about offensive line here in a minute. He rebounded the last 3 games of the season, last 2 games of the season, really. Made some really good throws, had a really good game last year against Tennessee, and kind of vaulted himself back up into the national spotlight again, when this year he comes out and, despite having a very porous and young and suffering from injuries offensive line, is able to throw for well over 300 yards against North Carolina, go 18 for 20 against Mississippi State. I mean, just have some just ridiculous performances, and be anointed by many as the top quarterback so far in the SEC. That was up until this past Saturday night's game in Neyland Stadium against Tennessee, where he goes, I don't remember what his numbers were, 14 of 25, not great. No touchdown passes, threw a pick six on a pass that, it was a bad play call, it was a bad throw, it was just a bad everything. Everybody screwed up that one. But so that notwithstanding, he takes 6 sacks. Those sacks weren't on him. He didn't hold on to the ball too long. Sometimes a sack can be on a quarterback because they hold on to the ball too long when they should either throw it away, take off running with it. They're kind of like a sitting duck back there, and just like it's like they forget to do what with the football, and they just take a dumb sack. He didn't take dumb sacks. He was getting sacks because our offensive line was getting absolutely zero push. They weren't doing their assignments. They were getting whipped up front, and he didn't have any time to throw the ball. He didn't have time to throw it away. He didn't have time to react. Didn't have time to do shit. But all I'm doing is hearing talking heads, specifically Josh Pate from 24/7 Sports, who I've listened to his takes at times, and I've thought that Josh has had some good takes. I've thought that Josh has had some stupid takes. He's very SEC homer biased, and when I say homer biased, meaning that he's going to lick the phallus of teams like Georgia, teams like Alabama, and when they're actually doing well, teams like Tennessee. And make no mistake about it, right now, they're still not doing well. Okay? Your quarterback play is shoddy at best. I didn't like South Carolina's defensive plan in that game. I think that they should have went more with, it seemed like I don't know. It seemed like they tried to play the same defensive scheme as they did against last year's Tennessee team, which you don't really have the personnel to do what you did last year, which is play a man coverage against Tennessee's elite wide receivers and shutting them down. We had the corners to do that last year. It seemed like they were trying to do that this year, and it failed miserably. I would have liked to have seen them go with more of the same approach they did against Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers. Clog up the middle, send pressure, close up the running lanes, force them to throw, which they forced Will Rogers to throw, and throw he did. And he completed, right around 75% of his passes for 400 and something yards. It still wasn't enough to win, and I think South Carolina knew that they could do that. I mean, had they done the same thing with Tennessee, if they had bottled that running game up in much the same fashion, and maybe you don't bottle it up like you did Mississippi State. They held that kid to 25 yards rushing, but maybe you hold Tennessee to 70 yards rushing instead of the damn near 200 that it got. That would have flipped the script on that ball game a lot. But you didn't, and there's got to be a reason why. Maybe you didn't have the personnel to do it. I don't know. T.J. Sanders, who's been a pleasant surprise for South Carolina up front as far as from a defensive tackle perspective, went out in the first quarter of that game and didn't return. So a lot of injury problems, a lot of those issues, but I just take issue with people like that, saying Spencer Rattler like a grease stain on the middle of it. Like, what are you talking about there, Josh? I mean, if, I wanted to make a bitch about it and be a wuss about the whole situation, I'd say it sounds a little bit racist. Also, you have Zach Smith over on the Menace to Sports podcast, which I used to really enjoy listening to this and have a lot of respect for the work that he did. And the reason I say used to is because I don't like the way he shits on Spencer Rattler either. 2 weeks after sitting here and singing his praises and talking about the Tennessee game as if saying he wanted to see him implode, I think was the way he put it. Just an idiot who's obviously talks about all the damn film he watches, which this is all a bunch of bullshit. He gets all these stats he rattles off from Pro Football Focus. He ain't watching no damn film. He ain't watching no film. That's exactly where he gets all this garbage from. Talks about how many throws they made under pressure, how many incompletions they had under pressure, how many deep balls they missed on, how many yada, yada, yada for every quarterback in all these big games. Of course, it doesn't ever really break down South Carolina or that because we don't ever play in no big games. But that junk just really pisses me off. Give a guy a break. He's doing the best he can, and he's playing at a disadvantage. He can't block for himself. That's on the coaching staff. That is on, I hate to say it, it's on Shane Beamer. And last week sounded like I was getting kind of critical of Shane. And I still believe that Shane is the right person for the job, but I think he really needs to look at some of his coaching hires. But at the same time, South Carolina has a pretty good recruiting class coming in for 2024 so far, and it's not done yet. Some of these kids that you've got committed probably have formed some type of relationship with your assistants. I mean, do you go cutting ties now? This is probably not the best time to do it because these people anymore, they don't need any kind of excuse to decommit. They don't need any kind of excuse to leave, transfer, whatever. I mean, it can just happen in the blink of an eye. So that's something to consider. It's definitely something to consider when you are looking at making the difficult decisions that you got to make going forward in your program. But someone commented on one of these videos the other day, and he said it best. If he can't make the tough decisions, eventually, talking about Shane Beamer, eventually he's going to be the tough decision. And I think everyone knows what that means. And I certainly don't want to see that happen. I like Shane Beamer. I like him a lot. Is he a little goofy? Yeah. But every college football coach out there has their quirks. They pick on him for being a little bit goofy. I can pick on, a dozen other head coaches for idiosyncrasies that they have about themselves that they may or may not realize they do. But it makes everybody unique. If everybody was the same, if everybody was exactly 6'1", 210 pounds, had the same color hair, same color eyes, same shaped nose, or the same damn exact age and talked the exact same, it'd be a pretty damn boring place to be. And we would have no diversity. So it is what it is. But they need to get some things straightened out this week. Florida, this game is pivotal, and you want to talk about must-wins. This is a must-win situation for South Carolina. Florida is not a good team. I know they beat Tennessee. I don't know what the deal is with the Vols going to the Swamp. There are some home venues in the SEC that I think are worth more points to the home team's advantage than what they say that the average is. I think they say the average is 3 to 5 points for home field advantage, maybe 3 to 4 points. In the SEC, some of these stadiums, I think it's more than that. In Williams-Brice, I think it's more than that. I think South Carolina gets about a 7-point advantage, if I had to say so, just judging over what I know over the years from playing at Williams-Brice. Because if you look at South Carolina's road record, it's pretty abysmal. And I think the Swamp in Gainesville is much the same way. Florida's a totally different team in the Swamp than what they are on the road. Hence a blowout loss to Kentucky. I mean, there was just no reasoning for that. There's no way Kentucky is that much better than Florida. Hence a loss to Vanderbilt last year in Nashville. I mean, things just happened. But then hence beating a Tennessee team that's probably better than you at home this year. South Carolina gets them at home, and it needs to be, in my opinion, just me from the outside or looking in, much the same defensive plan as you executed against Mississippi State. Load the box and stop the run. That's how they're going to beat you, is with the run. Graham Mertz, though, has had some decent numbers this year. He's been a game manager type quarterback, though. He's not going to beat you with a bunch of deep balls. They dink and dunk a lot, but I mean, I looked at his stats. He's like 109 for 135. That's pretty good. That's got to be about a 75% average completion of his passes. So, I think he's a little bit better than what the shitbag that everyone thought he was going to be coming from Wisconsin. But he's still not. He's not a Spencer Rattler who can throw the deep ball, who can throw intermediate passes, who can throw virtually any kind of NFL throw that you need made. And make no mistake about it, this guy is going to be drafted within the first 2 rounds. Speaking of Spencer Rattler, not Graham Mertz. He will be an NFL draft pick. And, depending on what happens the rest of the season, the more and more his stock rises or plummets is going to depend on where he lands at. If he continues to progress, if that line can somehow gel and start to block some of these teams, and it's not going to get any easier, then he'll have a good shot at being drafted in the first round. And all the haters will just have to go eat a big fat one because that's where you're going to be. But, hey, at least you won't have to face him anymore in college. Some big games this weekend, Alabama, Texas A&M. I'm rolling with Texas A&M there. I know Alabama has the history. I know they're the better team. They are actually 35-1 in their last 36 games against non-ranked opponents. So that's kind of telling there. And Texas A&M, despite the 4-1 start, is an unranked team, mostly due to that road loss to the Miami Hurricanes. But I'm going to go out on a limb there and roll with Jimbo's team in that game. I think that that they'll be able to stop the Alabama rush attack, and I think that they will be able to get just enough done through the air and on the ground to pull an upset. And it's a minor upset, really. You got Florida and Vanderbilt. Who knows how that one's going to go. I expect Florida to win pretty easily. I don't know that they cover the spread, though, against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's, their defense is bad, but they're kind of plucky. So we'll see how that one goes. Ole Miss and Arkansas, probably going to be a one-sided affair in Ole Miss's way. Kentucky and Georgia, I'm expecting a physical game, just like everyone else does. I expect a close game, in the first half, and then I expect Georgia to pull away. Kentucky's just too one-dimensional to be able to beat a team like Georgia, and it's really not knocking Kentucky for being one-dimensional. That's just what they happen to be this year, and what they've kind of been a power running team, which can be a double-edged sword. I just don't think they have enough horses in the stable to beat Georgia. Tennessee's off. Mizzou and LSU. I think Mizzou wins this game. LSU has really been challenged defensively, and Missouri's playing lights-out football over on the offensive side of the ball. I think they win this game, and I think they could possibly win it by double digits. I really need Mizzou to win this game because I want to see them beat Kentucky next week. Because, number one, I'd like to see them stay undefeated. Number two, I don't like Kentucky. Number three, I need you to be undefeated. I need you to be undefeated in 7-0 when I roll into Columbia, Missouri here in a few weeks for that road game with my Gamecocks. Because when I go to games, we generally win, and we're taking you down. That's a fact. So I need you to be undefeated when we go in there to take you down, because that's going to be an even bigger feather in the cap of Shane Beamer. And you want to laugh about it, but these Shane Beamer teams have progressively gotten better during the year in 2021 and 2022. So don't say it can't happen. It's time to get that Missouri monkey off our back, and this is the year I think we do it. It just so happens that they got a pretty decent squad so far. But we'll see. LSU could go in there and beat them by 14 because Mizzou has kind of feasted. They've gotten fat on some weak competition, and sometimes that can kind of hurt you. But I've ran my mouth long enough. It's an off week. I really hope they're doing the things they need to do. Hopefully we'll hear an update on Juice Wells soon. If he's not going to play the rest of the year, I wish they'd just go on ahead and tell us he's not going to play the rest of the year so we can just stop wondering. Unfortunately, that's what I'm thinking the result is going to be, but that's because I always think the worst is going to happen, and sometimes it in fact does. I'll see you guys later. I got to go in here and get to work. Peace. I'm out of here. Hit this thing with a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content here today. Subscribe to the Carolina Jackpot channel. Make sure you join me tonight around 7:15 p.m. I will be making an ass out of myself on live stream. I have to honor a bet that I made with BVD and crack 12 eggs over my head and dump a gallon of milk on myself. I've done this once before, 3 years ago when we lost to Tennessee. And by God, I got to do it again. So maybe one of these days we'll see some milk and eggs on BVD's noggin, but not today. Not today. It's going to be Carolina Jackpot taking the bath and the dairy products. So I'll see you guys later. Peace. I'm out of here. Go Gamecocks.